Welcome back to Main Street Living. Quincy, Danielle, when we talk about trees this time of the year, you might assume we're referring to Christmas trees, but the trees in your yard could probably use some attention as well.
Yes, and landscape contractor and designer Sara Bendrick is here to tell us how to use these winter months to get our yards and gardens in tip-top shape for next spring. Welcome to Main Street Living, Sara.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me.
So, you have a very cool job. You are a landscape contractor and designer and host multiple projects on HGTV and DIY networks. How did you get started in this career?
So, my background is in landscape architecture. I studied that for a handful of years, graduated, and then I decided to go into contracting because I really like the do it yourself or also just like the hands on aspect of landscape and construction. Like, it's one thing to be able to design something, but it's a whole other thing to be able to implement it. So, I just love that aspect. So, I kind of leaned into the construction. And nowadays, I run a company called Sarita Landscapes Incorporated, which means Little Sarah, and we do design build landscape installations in Southern California.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, Sarah. Now, what are some of the topics that you focus on mainly on your shows?
Sure. So for the show specifically, each show has a little bit of a different format, but the general idea is let me help homeowners take their backyards and make them into beautiful, livable space. And how do they change the way that they live their current lives? How do they change the way that they feel, their moods, and all of that? Because if you imagine walking out into a space that's just falling apart, all the shrubs are dead, it's dirt and weeds, like it doesn't inspire you. But if you have a space that has like a spot where you can go sit and work outside, the plants are charming and inviting, it completely changes your mood and really can change like the outlook on your day in a lot of ways. So I love the aspect of being able to like create outdoor living spaces for people where they can spend more time and reap the benefits of being outside.
Nice.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with you. I think that it really does elevate your mood. And I think we've become even more appreciative of that since the pandemic, obviously, getting to
Yeah.
spend time outside. Unfortunately, we are heading into the winter season, so it may be tough for some people to spend time outside. But what can we be doing in our yards and gardens now to make our plants happier in the spring?
Sure. So the interesting thing about my profession is it's all seasons. There's always something changing. There's always something growing or dying or breaking. So it's something that you always kind of have to keep an eye on. And depending on where you are in the United States, you are going to be faced with different things. But for people that are in the areas that get a lot colder or maybe have snow, you really want to keep an eye on your bigger trees and any of the branching systems that might be vulnerable to heavy snowpack and losing branches. Because one, it's unhealthy for the tree, but two, it can be unhealthy for you and your family in your home if you potentially have dangerous trees or branches around your home that can't withstand another year of heavy snow. So keeping an eye out on the trees in your that are near and surrounding your house and making sure that they're healthy and can withstand all of the winter coming up, that is one thing that you can do in the colder climates. And the warmer climates, you can do a lot more because you can actually go outside and not freeze to death. But one of the big things is just letting your garden rest. I think people always want their landscape to look 100% all the time. And it's not like a house when you renovate it and the paint stays on the wall and the bed never moves. In the garden, there's always things kind of changing. But we have to also accept that your garden likes to sleep a little. In the fall and the winter, it's not going to be as spectacular as it might be in the spring and the summer. And so one, just accepting that. And two, cutting back things so they can regrow and be fresh in the spring is something that you can do as well.
That is interesting, Sarah. I had no idea I had to worry about my garden getting good rest. Now, I have to
I was
worry
going to
about
say it's good life advice, Quincy. Really,
right,
we all
right. Like,
we all go
let
through
the garden
seasons. We all need
sleep.
some rest sometimes.
Yeah, just let them sleep. Now, along with sleeping, what are some tips to get our soil back in shape? Because clearly it's eating too much.
So I think soil is like the hidden like secret to like the best gardens in the world. And most of us just don't really make the connection, but the soil of your health really affects the soil of your plants. So when I tell people about gardening, I'm like, what are you putting in your soil so that you can avoid the chemical fertilizers and all that additional stuff, where if you had really good soil and all those nutrients were available to your plants, it's already there. It just needs to be available to your plants in a form that they recognize. So increasing the biology in your soil, the micro biology, all of that stuff will really help your plants. So what I recommend to people is feeding their soil. You can use like mycorrhizal, or you can use there's a lot of different products out there, but there's one I like. I'm gonna plug them because I use them all the time. But they're called Organics, and it's like a soil inoculant more or less. And I spray it over the plant leaves and I put it on the soil, and that really just helps grow the biology in the soil, which makes your plants stronger, meaning you'll need like less chemical or none at all to make your plants and gardens be healthy for you and themselves.
Nice.
Okay. Sarah, I want to ask you, just because we're kind of on the topic of your soil, like, do you do any composting? What are your thoughts on composting? People who want to do something like that, because that might be something that people perhaps in California participate in more since it's a little milder there.
Sure. And I have to confess, I am not currently doing any composting, but it's such a wonderful thing. And I'm blaming it on how much I travel. I am bouncing from one location to the other all the time. So composting is an awesome thing. And even in San Diego County, they're coming up with these bins that they're going to be providing with residents so they can put their food scraps in these containers. And the county is actually
Wow.
helping recycle that material and turn it into compost. So that's a wonderful thing. It's becoming mainstream, and I'm so excited to hear that, because there's so much like latent and hidden nutrients in our food waste that can really just be like put aside with a minimal effort, and you can recycle those back into your garden, creating a really healthy and vibrant space.
Wow. Yeah. Now, so I got to ask you, do you feel it's very essential to care for and embrace the outdoor spaces? Because a lot of people just look at them as just outdoor.
Sure. I face that all the time. Whenever people are doing renovations and all that stuff, the last of the budget is always the landscaping.
Mm.
And they're like, oh, the home's perfect now, and like, oh, we'll get there. But I would say that in terms of the landscaping, I think it's one of the most important parts of the yard, because you've already paid for this real estate. Or if you're renting, you have this space. Why not maximize your usable space? Obviously, if you're in spaces in like Southern California or warmer climates, you're going to get a longer time use of that investment. So that might also dictate how much money do I want to put into this space. But if you're living in like a hospitable climate, you might as well build that outdoor space, because you will benefit from being outside. Like just the energy it gives you and the relaxation and all those things, you're doing yourself a disservice by not developing it. And we don't want to forget the people in the north. Like, you still get a nice winter garden too. You can just view it from the outside,
There you go.
Stay
or view
safe,
the
stay
inside out.
warm.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, we're so excited you were able to stop by today. We know you have some projects coming up on your view, and we're looking forward to that. But in the meantime, how can viewers keep track of what you're up to?
Sure. So you can check out my TikTok, which is Sara Bendrick. I also have Instagram that I'm fairly active on, YouTube, and you can also check out my website, sarabendrick.com, and that's Sarah without an H.
Nice. Nice. Thanks again, Sarah, for stopping by. We'll look forward to catching you on TV.
All right. Thank you guys for having me.
Bye, Sarah.
All right. All right, Danielle. We'll found out something about plants and gardens, life, and all that stuff. But up next, we're going to the kids, because a dentist your kids will really love. Is that possible?
Oh my gosh.